I died while I was in cover, I died from artillery, I died from a friggin' flamethrower truck. I died a lot in this game, yet I came back for more menace, to take on more punishment from its insane difficulty spikes. But it makes sense, I guess, since Menace is a game from the makers of Battle Brothers, a critically acclaimed turn-based tactics game that I never really checked out, although I always wanted to. But instead of fantasy, this time the devs are making a game set in the far-flung future in a corner of a lawless frontier of space. Menace is not a game one just loads up to a mission and plays. Oh no, it's a game where planning and equipping your squads is just as critical as the actual combat itself. The demo is a small slice of operations, which is sort of like a dynamic campaign, a string of procedurally generated missions with some branching paths. I say small slice, but you'd probably have to play and replay it a lot to progress in this mode. So it's not lacking in terms of the playtime required to get anywhere in this demo. I suspect the difficulty, which can be insanely unbalanced towards the enemy pirates, which will oftentimes outnumber you, is on purpose for this demo, or maybe hasn't been properly fine-tuned yet. But the game's strategic campaign should have a more, well, I don't want to say gentle, but a more fair difficulty curve. Because in this demo, I've had my first few tries against pirate infantry, and then the game decides to do this. It just decides to throw enemy vehicles at me with flamethrowers and artillery. It's not exactly fair, is it? But Menace doesn't give a damn about what you think about its difficulty. No, you'll just have to try better the next time. You've just gotta get good. This is not an XCOM-like tactics game. There's no Overwatch to save your asses. Every action your squad takes are your own actions. Menace uses action points for everything, movement and attacks. Oftentimes you don't want to take the direct route to your objective. Most of the time you'll need to take a side approach or approach from the flank and angle where the enemy isn't all clumped up. And while you may think splitting up your units and approaching from all sides is the best, I found that approaching an enemy location with at least 2 squads works the best, at least for me. The idea here is that one squad would pin down the enemy and the other would go in for the kill. This makes more sense to me. Speaking of getting pinned, the way it works in Menace is that this little bar here fills up with sustained fire. They first become suppressed, they can't fire as accurately, then they become pinned, which means they won't be able to move freely, but they can crawl out of trouble, and eventually flee where you have absolutely no control over them. This is the key part of combat. You'll need to suppress and take out enemies, as enemies are squads as well, so they do soak up quite a bit of damage and can still be rather deadly with just a few dudes left in the squad. Cover feels a bit different from other games and is a very important aspect of the game. Obviously, you are not invincible while in cover. Even so-called full cover, your squad will be affected by being fired upon. It's a question of how much are they affected. You never quite feel completely safe in Menace. There is always a threat of something that will come in and tear your squads to shreds. One thing in the demo, some things that may look like cover do not impart any cover, and cover is different from different angles, which makes sense, but also makes engagements not so simplistic. The choice of where to move your squad is something you will deliberate at each turn. You definitely don't want to be caught out in the open and get pinned and eventually lose an entire squad like this. Remember, there is no time limit constraint in the missions in this demo, so take all the time you need to, maybe even wait for the enemy to come to you if there's no cover to get to them. But I think what I like the most about Menace is how you equip, customize or upgrade your squads. The level of detail in terms of the abilities and weapons are quite impressive. Weapon effectiveness is shown in this graph here, which shows you how good they are at different range, which are measured in tiles. You can increase the size of squads, and each squad leader has their own perks which you can tailor to the playstyle that best suits them. There are no class roles here, but you will and you can customize them to fit specific roles that you'd want them to be. Play around with the squads in the demo, load up a leader who can pilot a vehicle, just try different things. The demo is very much a small sandbox slice where you can try different combinations. One thing I think is excellent that many might overlook is the really good sound design. A sound in Menace gives you information about what's happening on the battlefield. Different weapons have different sounds. You can distinguish them from each other. When bullets ricochet or are deflected, you hear it, so you got to rethink about your strategy here. Use a different squad with armor penetrating weapons. When you land hits, there is a very subtle sound. But even if you don't hear it, your units will make it known to you. There's a lot of chatter that does hint to you how the battle is progressing. So even if you can't see your enemies, you'll still hear them moving about or attacking or using jump jets. Intel in Menace is as much about the subtle sound cues you get as it is what you visually can see on the battlefield, and it's brilliant. I do wish they had like a visual cue to where the sound is coming from. I think that would be rather helpful, because I think the camera doesn't quite follow the enemy action properly. I'm not sure if it's working as intended now. I mean, this is after all a work in progress. Menace is launching in early access on February 5th, 2026, and it will also be available on PC Game Pass. I hope to see more of the strategic campaign part of the game. Operations are cool and all, and very challenging, but I like playing a campaign of some sort. Anyway, do tell me, have you played this demo? How did you approach the missions? What is your favorite tactic that you've used? Share in the comments below. There's been a couple of new strategy game demos released lately, and I did a video on a game that is said to be inspired by Majesty, the classic indirect control RTS. Check out this video on Lasaria Fantasy Kingdom Sim. Thanks for watching and farewell, noble friends.